The Blue Store Quarter also rewrote his story during the revision of history during the epic reset between the mid-1800s until the 1930s, when Court Hof-Juden David Rockefeller, along with the Rothschilds' Red Shield, began the many stories of the Big Bang, evolution, and his story of religious myth and lore. The Court Hof-Juden are the Akanashi Jewish people who were conscripted by the Vatican to be allowed to make all the money and all the fame, as long as the Vatican and its and 13 satanic bloodlines would be provided with information and power. The Vatican set up confessionals for the same purpose and runs a worldwide spy spook agency called The Entity, which owns and controls all major spy agencies, including the CIA, NSA, MI6, Mossad, etc. The Old World Order were the benevolent Tartarians. One of their only primary directives was that what you take back from nature, you give back more. Their nature nurtures was based on Isis, the moon goddess, who created and provide for all. One can only conclude, given the extremely similar structures we see throughout the world, that all lived in common language and were all related in common thought, intention, and design. They had healing centers for animals. They had passive relations with all life because they had advanced their consciousness to emanate love and benevolence to all. Their flag was of a griffin, which was a real animal. The griffin is part human, part eagle, part lion, and part androgynous bull. It appears from their maps and legend that there also existed centaurs, flying turtles, and unicorns. We can only surmise that the entire Tartarian people were destroyed when the Blue Store Quarter learned how to use the Tartary technology and use it to destroy the entire culture and erase their existence from modern his story books of today. If you look carefully at the photos and images in this book, you will see these massive buildings that would mean there were hundreds of millions, maybe even tens of billions of Tartarians that were eliminated when the healing technology was used to destroy. We find millions of bones buried under cities and massive insane asylums, where they likely imprisoned the adult Tartars after they had separated them from their children to be sold for slave labor and shipped on the foundling trains. They had crematories and large graveyards on their sites. And did the once great Tartarians enjoy one common language, as the Tower of Babylon suggests? Britain has over 44 dialects alone. So now, do we languish in our languages created by the New World Order and Phoenicians, so that now our definitions are to deaf Phoenicians, and we Babylon and on, with all varying dialects, idioms, and Roman Latin etymologies? The Blue Store Quarter we see unfolding today likely genocided the Tartars under the spiritual mind and body control of Lucifer and Satan. Some of these mind-controlled Blue Store Quarter are called Blue Bloods, due to their blood being of higher copper content than non-Rh negative bloodline humans. The Rh negative bloodline allows genealogical DNA traits to pass on, whereas any contamination of positive bloodlines corrupts the purity of the bloodlines. Most are not even aware that all US presidents have negative blood, and their lineage can be traced back to King Charles II of the 17th century and Vladimir the Impaler, aka the original Dracula. Throughout the world, invading forces that defeated Tartaria appropriated their palaces and red power stations and turned them into universities, museums, theaters, banks, prefectures, chambers of commerce, stock exchange, churches, high school, courts, banks, post offices, libraries, opera theaters, biomedical research institutes, casinos, and tourist attractions, as well as cathedrals, synagogues, and churches, and rewrote their history, chronicled in the collective Wikipedia. And they continue to paint the structures that extract energy from the ether with the same colors as Tartaria and keep destroying. Tartaria was the whole world. Asia, Africa, Europe, Oceania, and the Americas were part of a single high civilization and had the architecture focused on the extraction of magnetic critical energy. Great Tartary was then divided into civilizational categories like the Ottoman Empire, Byzantine Empire, and Ross Empire. These changes were then archived into the likes of throne rooms of the Grand Kremlin Palace in Moscow, the National Archives of Britain, and in the Library of Congress in Washington. The blue store quarter parasites also interrupted the astronomical clocks of Tartaria because they used the geocentric model to represent the solar system. In the Tartarian astronomical clocks, the Earth was at the center of God's creation. These clocks were complex calculating machines. They used terms like computus, and to operate them, sophisticated mathematical knowledge was required. The invaders invented the heliocentric model and the Copernicus character, among many others, to be able to recreate the history of humanity and erase traces of their recent crimes and destruction of the great civilization of Tartaria. To be very clear, Tartaria was the whole world with a unified language and design. How could the many pyramids found all over the world incorporate the same thought and designs if the Tartars were not all connected somehow? Where are the design plans? We will see over and over again how 1. Buyers were said to destroy most of the structures. 2. Architectural drawings and blueprints are never made available. 3. Iron forgery plants not located. 4. Where the stones, bricks, copper, iron, etc. came from. Or 5. How these massive structures and incredible engineering feats were accomplished. Would they not be sharing all their amazing know-how with us all? Yet you will find very little, if any, available literature on any of the above. The architecture to extract energy, the world architecture for electromagnetic energy extraction, derives entirely from the high civilization Tartarian or Aryan. It is characterized by the use of arch openings, columns, domes, and towers. In addition to details such as rose windows and makernas, symbols of the vibration of electromagnetic energy which acts on molecules and changes the behavior of cells. Formerly, these waves would act in healing, levitation, and transport, besides provoking feelings like harmony and euphoria. This energy can now be used in another way. The architecture of the Tartaria undergoes slight modifications and influences according to the local characteristics of climate, culture, and material resources, but maintains the basic principles throughout the world. You will find that pyramids, theaters, and colosseums all had water channels running under them directly where the sound energy was directed. The star forts seem to have been designed to create a micro domes that protected the inhabitants and resonate harmony. This was detailed in Tesla's three-dimensional shell, created by interfering two Fourier expansion three-dimensional scalar hemispherical patterns in space, so they pair couple into a dome-like shell of intense, ordinary electromagnetic energy. The air molecules and atoms in the shell are totally ionized and thus highly excited, giving off intense glowing light. Anything physical which hits the shell receives an enormous discharge of electrical energy and is instantly vaporized. It goes poofed, like a bug hitting one of the electrical bug killers, now so much in vogue. The elite survived by utilizing them during the resets. Look at some old depictions of star forts that were surrounded by walls of mud and remained mostly undamaged. Imagine a society that created free energy with the classical arts, and our jobs were musical in nature. On the solfeggio scale, 528 Hz is significant. These sound frequencies we created made plants, humans, and animals grow larger and maintain a temperate climate. All cities located at strategic points on Earth along canals, rivers, seas, lakes, and oceans were star forts and had electromagnetic energy extracted from the ether. The energy was then captured through towers and obelisks and stored in the red and white striped power stations of the high civilization lately called Great Tartaria.